everybody. My name is Kathleen, and today Larry and I are here with Heather Strickland. Hi, Heather.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, it's great for you to be here.
Yes, we're so glad you're here. Thank you. I always try to remember when I'm interviewing somebody when we met. So I know that we both were part of Bear Theater very much at the beginning, like seeing Carmen formulate that idea in her head and being a part of that from the very beginning. So I think that's how I knew who you were, and probably ran into you and all that. But I know you taught for RLT and acted and fight choreographer, so I know you did a lot. But I couldn't pinpoint like a specific time. I know I was young at the time. That's all I know.
Oh, me too. I wonder if it was because I did a little bit of work on Secret Garden when Carmen directed that, The Shadow Signed.
Yeah, that was nice.
I can't remember what year that was, but I was around a lot during that show,
Okay.
and I'm wondering if it was then.
Maybe.
I think
Maybe.
Kathleen and I drove to Common Ground because Kathleen wasn't old enough to drive yet. And Carmen and Jesse were doing, the water,
That's right.
the little short plays and stuff like that. And I think I might have met you there or soon before that.
Oh, is that when they were doing, it was a Pinter play, right?
Yes.
Yes. Goodness, what was the name of that show?
That was
so
so
such
good.
a great show. That was directed by Christopher Beaulieu, who now lives up in Virginia.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Wow. Oh, all these names.
That was the early days of Bear Theater. Yeah, that
Right.
was a long time ago.
That was. Yeah, that was great. That was great. And it was really fun for me to see Carmen on stage, because
Right.
I knew her in the other capacities so much. So
And that was such a perfect role because, it's clown. That show is absolutely clown, and having Jesse and Carmen, two very, very talented physical comedy actors playing those roles, it was perfect.
It was perfect. It was perfect. So when did you get the acting bug or the theater bug? When did you decide, this might be fun to do?
I was in kindergarten and I got the role of Thick and Little.
Yes.
And I remember, so I was living in upstate New York in a very small little farming community. The school that I went to was literally a 3-room brick schoolhouse.
Oh my.
And I don't even remember like if it was a part of my class or if it was like a separate program. I think it was maybe the first grade teacher, because there was only one kindergarten class, one first grade class, and one second grade class, and that's cool. I think the first grade teacher just sort of liked doing theater, and so she would do something every year. And I got the part of Thick and Little, and we made those. Remember how you used to make the construction paper hats with the beak? And I remember the hat because they were really dropping an acorn on my head, for the moment of when the sky was falling. And on top of a construction paper hat, that acorn made this incredibly loud sound.
That's great.
That's what I remember of my first time really being on stage, was the sound of the acorn hitting my construction paper hat. And then I ran around saying the sky is falling.
Did you stay in character?
I did.
Okay.
I did. I didn't break. Very early on, I had really good work ethics when I came to theater.
And what do you mean we used to make those? I still use them in my closet. We're going to be making beaks today, kids.
Yep.
So after high school, maybe after college, what was the first show you were involved with?
So let's see. In college, I was a theater major. I'm trying to think of like one of the first shows. That's actually when I started really doing a lot of the fight choreography, was when I was in college. I was assistant directing, I can't remember if it was my junior or senior year of college, a production of Cyrano de Bergerac. Oh. And of course, lots of sword fighting. And it was the first time that I had ever heard of the Society of American Fight Directors, because we hired somebody that was certified with the society to come in and do the fights. And I very clearly remember my first reaction to hearing about this was, you're kidding me. There's a bunch of nerds out there that pretend to sword fight. And then I saw what it was about. I was like, I was very wrong. This is incredible work. This is a talent. This is something that I love. And it was so based in, I danced for my entire life. I was started off as a ballet ballerina. And so it just made sense. I saw how that movement was put together and how it was choreographed. And I was like, I know this. This is ballet, just with sharp pointy things. And so that's when I really started training and certifying with the society, was after I had that experience in college. I think one of the most fun roles that I got to play when I was still in school was I got to play Mariah in 12th Night. That was my senior year. And that was just, I mean, I think that's probably when I really started to fall in love with Shakespeare, because we were laughing so hard during that show that I just realized how bawdy, how hilarious, how much fun. We played through that entire rehearsal process, and then you could see it in the show that was produced of how much fun we were having.
That's so cool. That's so cool. Did you have a mentor when you started out?
I remember having, especially like, starting in kindergarten and then through elementary school, I had a lot of amazing drama teachers.
Yeah.
Like I remember in 3rd grade, Mrs. Foster. I remember in 9th grade, Mr. Jignersky. I remember these teachers that, drama was an elective. It wasn't anything that I thought I was going to be a part of who I was when I was older, but I had these amazing teachers, and I always felt at my best in those classes. And I mean, that's probably why I stuck with it. I mean, even going into college, I didn't actually go to college thinking I was going to be pursuing a theater degree. I started as a communications with a broadcast track major. And because I was going to be a TV news reporter. I was going to read the news on the 6 o'clock news every night. And I had a theater minor. And I remember there was a really great theater program at the school that I went to. And as I got—
Where'd you go?
I went to Flagler College in North Florida, St. Augustine, Florida.
Okay.
Small liberal arts school, private, right on the beach in St. Augustine.
Nice.
And, so I was a theater minor, and after about 2 years, I realized that I wanted to do it. And I remember being like, oh, my parents are going to kill me. I'm going to be a theater major. What are they going to say? And I remember calling them and being like, I'm going to move my theater minor up to major. I'm going to double major. And they were like, we were wondering why you didn't do that at first. It really is a great thing. And I was like,
what?
You knew all this time I was supposed to be involved in theater.
That's such a great story.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you if your parents were supportive, because I've just been thinking, every time I read biographies about actors, I say, that's me. And you just wonder if you had the right encouragement as a child that, this was not something terrible to go into, or something was wrong with you, to become, because you want to become an artist and stuff.
Right.
Well, my parents, so, when we lived in upstate New York, my mother's a nurse. She's been a nurse her whole life, retired nurse now. My father was working for the New York State Environment Department. And so he was do things like bear trapping. I think their lives of following their passions and what it just allowed this, you're going to be who you are, and we want you to be happy. And that's it. And they exposed me to theater. I remember the Children's Theater in upstate New York, the Egg in Albany, fabulous children's theater. We would go every season to see shows there. And so I was exposed to really amazing live theater at a very young age too. And I think that mattered.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Have you ever gotten any great advice about theater, whether it be acting or directing or fighting?
Yeah, well, part of the reason that I really stuck with the fighting is because I do remember one of my professors in theater saying to me, figure out what else you're really good at when it comes to this craft, right? Because theater majors in college, so often they're performance majors, especially, we just had a general theater program. It wasn't anything that was specialized. And so everyone wanted to be on stage. And so you don't often think about all the other jobs that there are when it comes to theater. And I'm really grateful for that now, because the path that my choreography took me on, you know, certainly fight choreography, but then it led into intimacy choreography. I mean, that's really, for the past, you know, 10 years of my life, that's where I get the work.
Right.
You know, like, because there's not as many fight choreographers and intimacy choreographers out there. And so once my name got out there as someone that does that, I got calls from every theater in the area wanting me to come work. And it keeps you connected.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that thought of like, you know, understand, yes, you love performance, I get that, but like figure out what else you love about this craft, because there's other ways to get into it.
Absolutely.
Do you have a favorite theater artist? No, sort of a broad question, but.
Yeah, so I actually, that's what comes to mind is somebody that I just stumbled across very, very recently, who I have now started following because I am just such a fan of what she does. And I only recently watched Birds of Prey, you know, Harley Quinn. And, you know, the movie, it's okay. But the stunts, especially the stunt performer for Harley Quinn, I was like, she's amazing. I gotta find this stunt performer. And so I looked up who was doing all the stunts for Harley Quinn, and realized that this woman is also the stunt performer for Captain Marvel. She was in like the Mad Max.
Wow.
She did a lot of the Mad Max stunts. I was like, this woman has this incredible career. I can't remember her name right now, a German stunt performer, but she has this long line of like amazing credits. And I was like, I think that was the career I was supposed to have.
I've actually thought that too, that maybe I should have been a stuntman if I could go back in time and stuff. It'd be a great play where you wanted to be an actor, but all you could do was be a stuntman. So fill in for better act, you know.
Yeah.
But you are that kind of actor that does your own stunts. Like you're always saying, can I just fall down these stairs? Is that okay? Can I just, you know, so.
That's that insecurity thinking, well, I can always use my body. That's easy.
That's okay. Heather, what happened at your worst audition or at a bad audition? Do you have one of those stories?
I think, I don't know that I've had like, I mean, auditions are always a little nerve-wracking, and I've certainly had the moments where I walked away and didn't feel like I did my best, or just were like, no, that was not it. I don't know if there was one that was like, I really just messed that up. Like, I'm trying to even think if I've ever like gone up on a monologue at an audition, and I don't think that I have.
That's great.
Yeah.
Lucky.
Do you have a favorite show you could talk about?
I think one of my favorite show, actually, this is a show that I directed, Everscape.
Yeah.
You know, so that was, goodness, 4 years ago now, maybe 5. And, you know, it was an original Alan Mull piece. And I remember he sent me this email, and it was really cryptic and said, are you doing anything in like 3 or 4 months? I can't tell you more. Respond first, and then I'll stop being cryptic. Wow. And I was like, all right, well, I trust Alan. I don't know what's happening here. So I responded and told him that, you know, my schedule was fairly open. And so he sent me this script. And the only time it had ever been done before was up in New York City for the Fringe Festival up there. And I read the script that night, and I was in tears by the end of it. I mean, I just flew through it. I identified with these characters, and it was also, you know, it was a movement fight-based show. So like, I was like immediately connected to the story. I knew it was a perfect story for me to tell. And then we just had this incredible experience. Like it's those magic moments. You know, we all have those shows where we're like perfect people, perfect moment, perfect story, and it all came together.
Nice.
That's great.
Wow.
Is there a role or that you always want to play, or something you want to direct?
I've auditioned for Lady Macbeth 3 times, and I haven't gotten it yet. And I am like, I'm at the age now where I can play Lady Macbeth.
Definitely. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
So I still want that role. And I've played Macduff. I played Lady Macduff. Like sort of played parts around. I just have never played Lady M. So yeah, I would love, that's just, that's one of those roles. It's absolutely a bucket list role. It's a challenging role. There's so much there to dig into and to understand. So that's for many, many years, that's been one that I've wanted to do.
Wow. So when you're on stage as an actor or when you're directing, what do you look for in that actor? Like, so if you're on stage, what do you hope you're on stage with? And if you're directing, who are you hoping walk in that door? Look tight.
Directing, I'm always really looking for people that are just going to play, right? It's less about perfectly nailing whatever monologue they're doing or even exactly interpreting the character that as the way I would interpret it, but it's like, are you willing to be, the process is so important. Like, and I know that like during the process, we're always working to this end product, and the end product is what everyone gets to see, but I put so much value in every process that I get to go through because, it's such a journey of learning, and the people that you go on that journey with matters so much, especially those of us that are in like community theater, right? Like, right. This isn't Broadway. This is about us being together, just as much as it is about producing an end story for folks to learn from or be entertained by, or why ever they're buying that ticket. So I think as a director, I'm really looking for the person that's going to come in and be a part of that process and be engaged in the process and play in the process and learn and grow with all of us. And I think, that's what I value in somebody that I'm going to share the stage with as well. Right. So often I'm also doing fights. So, for me, it's also finding that person that's going to understand that the number one priority is always taking care of your scene partner, right? And no matter what we're doing, whether we're acting opposite or we're fighting opposite or we're directing, the priority has to be care for the other person. Because, when you're caring for the other person, you're going to make sure that they're looking their best, and they're going to make sure that you're looking their best no matter what. So.
Well, and I think, how most of the things I've directed are multi-generational. So I always love that because, of course, children look up to the adults and learn from them, but there are so many times when the adults learn from the kids. And, one of the ones that come to my head was James and the Giant Peach, and Chris Brown, who, is such an amazing actor and so just flawless. I could see it in his face during rehearsals, watching these young children just being so spontaneous and being able to, he's more of a rule follower and by the book. And so to be put into an atmosphere where they played during rehearsals and learned that way, I think he really learned a lot, he told me. And I thought, wow, that's just so fun,
Yeah. Well, and I got to watch, my daughter was in the most recent Cinderella, and watching my child go through that, like, this is a process I know, that I love. It's at a theater that has my heart. And this is her first time going through this. And I was reminded, yes, she loved performing, but she had the post-show blues. And I remember watching my child, like, she had a picture of her with her other mouse ponies, and she came home after the show closed and she sat on her bed and she cried looking at the picture of her and her mouse ponies because she missed her other mouse ponies so much. And it was about the process for her. She was like, I built a community, I built friendships, and it was in this, 6-week process that we so take for granted, of how much we connect with other humans through that. And I got to
even as adults, we do that. I remember, and my husband would say to my kids, leave your mother alone, she'll be fine in about a week, because I would just be so blue and sad.
Did your daughter, was it more important how you thought about our performance, or Mike, the director, for Cinderella?
Oh, I don't know. I bet it depends on who she's talking to or who can hear her in the moment she's answering that question.
Right?
I know that she really learned a lot working with the adult actors. There was a few that she became really close with, so I bet it was them more than anyone else.
That's it.
We all have great moments. Can you tell us one of your great moments?
Yes, goodness, I have a lot.
Oh, nice.
I think, you know what? I think one moment of magic that I do remember, pure theater magic, it actually happened out on the amphitheater stage at RLT. And this is 2005. Yeah, this is 15 years ago. It was my first role at RLT. I was playing Rosalind in As You Like It. And there was this giant set out on that amphitheater. We called them lollipops. So these big like tree things. I don't know if y'all remember this set that was out on the amphitheater. It was huge. And it was a giant cast because we had all the forest lords and there is, Rosalind's got some great monologues in that show, especially talking about, love and what it means to really love someone. And there was one night, you're out in the amphitheater already, screaming Shakespeare to the full moon and the stars, which is already magic. But I got to the end of one of my main monologues, and it's Orlando is on the stage with me, and I'm talking about what it truly means to love somebody and how powerful love is. And the monologue ends with, "I can do strange things." And right when I said that, like on the street next to the amphitheater, a car backfired, and there was this loud boom that rang through the whole amphitheater. The whole audience went, and even I was like, and then I just went, "See?" And
Oh, that's great. Oh my God.
Yeah, that was theater magic. That is Shakespeare himself looking out for me in that moment.
Wow. Wow. Do you have something funny that went wrong on the stage?
Yeah, I probably have plenty of those.
Yeah, I agree.
Those are the best moments, right?
They
Because those
are.
make the stories that we all talk about later.
Yes.
Remember that time?
Yes.
When I was, this was in college, I was in a musical, Hansel and Gretel the musical. So, performing for packed children's houses. And I was playing Gretel. And there was, a big musical number that ended with, Hansel lifting me up on the shoulder, and I ended with jazz hands in the air. What I didn't know is right when Hansel bent down to pick me up for that lift, he ripped the back of his lederhosen. And so he sort of threw, I kind of felt it well, something happened with that lift. It didn't go right, but we landed, it was fine. And he puts me down and we're smiling at each other waiting for the applause to die. And he looks at me with a smile, his mic is still on. He goes, "I just ripped the back of my lederhosen." And I'm like, we got to keep going. Then we went into this just the two of us musical number, and it was supposed to be this tap dancing number, where I was teaching him the moves to this tap dance, and so I'd do the move and then I would spin across the stage, and then he was supposed to do the move and follow exactly what I just did, but instead of spinning, because he didn't want to turn around, he just kind of sashayed to the side. Because he didn't want to show that he had this, busted lederhosen.
Right.
Literally show his ass to the audience.
Yeah.
So we ended up we had one brief moment where both of us ran off stage. By then the stage manager had figured out that something had gone, there was a horrible wardrobe malfunction, and she had gotten a bunch of safety pins. So she got off, she reached down his pants with the safety pins, safety pinned him back up and pushed him back out on stage.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that would take your mind somewhere out of the moment for sure.
Yeah.
If you couldn't do any of the stuff you're doing now in theater, direct, act, and choreography, what else would you want to do in theater?
I would be the executive director of my favorite community theater.
Oh,
Very good. Very good.
Yeah, I
Now-
mean, this is, I've been on the job, I don't know, 4 months now. The hardest 4 months to run a theater. But this is still exactly where I'm supposed to be, and this is still my dream job. I mean, this is the combination of my passion and my love, and the skill sets and experience that I've had throughout my career. So it's hard, but there is no place else I'd rather be.
It's so funny because Kathleen and I talk about this all the time, and like I met Jesse and you about the same time, and then like 10 years passed. It's like, wow, they've gone so far in their careers. Aren't they like just 18 or 19?
Uh,
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah, there's a lot of us. I actually got an email from Laura Jernigan today.
oh,
And I was like, oh, I knew her when she was like a teenager.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
if you could go back in time and talk to your younger version about the craft of theater, what advice would you tell yourself?
I think I would tell myself to push even harder for what I loved. I think I was so hesitant for so many years to truly make theater my life and my career, right? It took me a long time to it always seemed like a risk, right? For whatever reason, whether it was society or who, or being an artist never felt like a viable career choice. And I think that, while I'm certainly grateful for where I am and what I'm doing, I think that the hesitation to just jump into that held me back in many ways, because I don't think I actually took it seriously as something I could do until later in my life. So yeah, I think I would tell myself to wait earlier, just go for it and see what happens.
That's great. You might be having that conversation with your own daughter one day.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, or the opposite of don't go into theater.
What are you, crazy?
What's the first thing you want to do when we get back to a normal life? I know you're working right now with RLT, but when the pandemic is over.
Yeah, I can't wait for that moment to be here at RLC. I'm in my office right now.
Right.
For an opening night with people in the building. I saw something several weeks ago, some internet meme that said, the moment on Broadway when Andre DeShields' Hermes walks out for the opening of Hadestown, because he walks out first and he looks at the audience and goes, all right. Can you imagine that moment when this ends? That moment when he gets to walk out onto a Broadway stage and look at an audience for the first time in months and go, all right. Yeah.
I'm crying now.
Right?
Yeah.
I can't even imagine. And I want that moment here with my community.
We'll get there.
But I think she topped it. That's it. Yeah. We had people who just said get a beer or get a pizza. You know what I mean? So that was great.
Someone asked me, are you hanging out with your friends? I said, well, all my friends are in theater. I mean, we are a community.
Right.
And stuff. And,
I know.
And I miss that.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And, it's not a community that, our hanging out with each other is not just pizza and a beer. It might be sometimes, but our hanging out with each other is how do we tell the story?
Yeah, creating our life story. You're right. Absolutely. Oh, well, thank you so much for doing this. This was a great walk down memory lane, and to hear stories from different angles, and it's just wonderful. I thank you so much.
First time Kathleen's cried on it.
I know. Yeah.
Thank you both. Thank you for doing this too. I mean, I've seen a couple of the stories that you all have put out there, the interviews, and it's important for us to keep sharing our stories in the ways that we can right now, right? So
it's important because I've watched, we've interviewed a lot of actors I have a lot of respect for, and I'm going, wow, they have the same insecurities I have.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it's just important to realize not everyone is anxious and struggles with the craft and wants to be better. And
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's true. It's true. I
Absolutely.
mean, if we're not struggling with those things, we might not be doing it right.
yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, I know RLT has a show coming up. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, so hopefully we'll get lots of audience for that. I'm so excited about it. So
Yeah, it feels good to be talking about the things we are able to do versus
Right.
canceling things. So yes, we got a lot coming up over the next few months.
I know. Kudos to all that creativity over there. So I love that. I love that. Take care of yourself, and hopefully we will actually be able to see each other in person sooner rather than later.
I hope so. Thank you both.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Heather.
Thanks, Larry.